Daniel Mercer heard the laughter before he even opened his locker. Not loud enough to get anyone in trouble. Not cruel enough to be called bullying. Just sharp enough to stick. Careful, someone muttered behind him. He might calculate your GPA into submission. A few snickers followed. Daniel didn't turn around. He adjusted his glasses, slid his calculus book into his bag, and kept his breathing steady. That was his real skill. Not math. Not robotics. Not coding. Endurance. He had perfected the art of being overlooked. Invisibility was safer. Invisibility meant no one expected anything from you. And no one blamed you when things went wrong. The final bell rang. Lockers slammed. Sneakers squeaked across polished floors. The hallway emptied in waves of noise and perfume and careless laughter. Daniel waited. He always did. Count to 30. Let the crowd clear. Then move. Outside, late afternoon light painted the athletic field in fading gold. The old maintenance hangar beyond the track sat abandoned, its metal siding rusted and half-swallowed by weeds. No one went near it anymore. Which was why Daniel noticed the sound. A low, strained whimper. He froze mid-step. It came again. Not a dog. Not anything he'd ever heard before. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even strong. It was tired. Daniel looked around. The parking lot was nearly empty. A school bus pulled away in the distance. He should leave. This wasn't his business. But the sound came again. Weaker. Something in his chest tightened. For once, he muttered under his breath, "Don't overthink it." He adjusted his backpack straps and walked toward the hangar. Each step felt heavier than the last. The side door was cracked open. Inside, dust hung in the air like forgotten time. Broken crates, discarded equipment, old sports nets, everything smelled of rust and stale oil. And in the far corner, a flicker of blue light. Daniel's heart began to pound. It wasn't electrical wiring. It was contained. Precise. Geometric. He stepped closer. And stopped breathing. A cage. Not homemade. Not animal control. Military-grade alloy bars reinforced with faintly glowing energy seams. Inside it, something moved. Silver fur caught the light. Small. Curled tightly against the cold metal floor. Daniel stepped closer without realizing he was moving at all. The creature lifted its head. And golden eyes locked onto his. They were not animal eyes. They were intelligent. Ancient. And filled with pain. It was a wolf cub. At least, shaped like one. But its fur shimmered faintly, almost metallic. Thin lines of bioluminescent patterns pulsed weakly beneath its skin, tracing along its ribs like dying constellations. Wrapped around its neck was a thick collar, black, cracked, and sparking faint red pulses into its flesh. Chains extended from the collar to the floor of the cage. The wolf tried to stand. It trembled. Collapsed. The collar flared red again. A sound escaped it. Not a growl. Not a snarl. A restrained cry. Daniel's hands started shaking. "Hey," he whispered instinctively, kneeling down. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The wolf's ears flattened. But it didn't bare its teeth. It just watched him. Studied him. As if measuring something invisible. Daniel noticed the chains more closely. They weren't plain metal. They were engraved. Symbols etched deep into the links. Precise. Structured. Alien. Not decorative. Deliberate. And they were glowing faintly in response to his proximity. His stomach dropped. This wasn't someone's lost exotic pet. This was illegal. Off-world capture. Containment tech far beyond Earth's civilian access. Whoever put this here had power. And if he touched it, if he interfered, he would not win that fight. The wolf's golden gaze didn't break from his. Something passed between them. Not words. Not sound. But a sensation. Loneliness. Cold. And something else. Recognition. Daniel swallowed hard. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered. The collar sparked again. The wolf flinched. Daniel felt something twist inside him, sharp and sudden. All his life, he had stepped aside. Let louder people take space. Let stronger people decide outcomes. But this? This wasn't a hallway joke. This wasn't a group project. This was something alive. Something abandoned. Left to die. "For once," he said quietly, his voice steadier than he felt, "I don't stay quiet." He reached forward. The moment his fingers brushed the nearest chain, the glyphs exploded with light. White fire raced along the engravings. The collar surged violently. The wolf's eyes widened. And the air inside the hangar vibrated like something ancient had just awakened. Daniel tried to pull his hand back. But the chain pulsed again. Not attacking. Responding. The symbols shifted. Reordering themselves under his touch. Like a lock recognizing the correct key. And outside, far above the clouds, something began descending through Earth's atmosphere. Daniel didn't know that yet. All he knew was this. The chain wasn't rejecting him. It was waiting for him. And for the first time in his life, Daniel Mercer wasn't invisible. The light didn't fade. It intensified. The glyphs carved into the chain blazed white-hot beneath Daniel's fingers, not burning him, but humming. Vibrating. Like they were scanning him. The collar around the wolf's neck surged red again. The wolf cried out. Daniel yanked his hand back instantly. I'm sorry. I didn't mean. The light dimmed slightly. Not gone. Watching. The wolf's golden eyes locked onto his again, and this time there was no fear in them. There was expectation. Daniel swallowed. This isn't just a lock, he whispered, staring at the symbols. It's a system. The glyphs weren't random alien markings. They were layered. Structured. Mathematical. He leaned closer, heart hammering. The outer ring of symbols pulsed in repeating sequences. The inner carvings shifted whenever he moved his hand near them. Responsive architecture. Adaptive encryption. The collar wasn't designed just to restrain. It was designed to evaluate. The wolf tried to lift its head again. The collar sparked. Daniel clenched his fists. Okay, he muttered. Okay. Think. The glyphs brightened when he was close. Dimmed when he retreated. They weren't reacting to force. They were reacting to presence. He moved his hands slowly toward the chain again, this time not grabbing, but hovering. The symbols shifted. Reordered. One cluster rotated 90 degrees along the link's surface, revealing a second layer of carvings beneath. Daniel's breath caught. A dual key construct. The outer pattern suppressed energy. The inner pattern filtered it. The collar was siphoning power from the wolf, but only until something triggered the release protocol. This isn't an execution device, Daniel whispered. It's a trial. The wolf's bioluminescent patterns flickered brighter for a split second. Confirmation. Daniel exhaled slowly. If I mess this up, he murmured, you're going to bite me, aren't you? The wolf didn't blink. Fair enough. He reached forward again. This time, instead of pulling, he traced the inner carvings carefully with the tip of his finger. The symbols rearranged instantly beneath his touch. Like liquid metal responding to thought. He shifted his finger slightly left. A pulse of blue rippled through the chain. Right. The red glow of the collar flickered unstable. Daniel's pulse quickened. I see it, he whispered. You're not locked, you're bound. The difference mattered. He pressed two intersecting glyph clusters simultaneously. For a split second, nothing happened. Then, the entire chain flared brilliant white. The collar around the wolf's neck shifted from violent red to deep, steady blue. The wolf gasped. Not in pain. In relief. A sharp, ringing crack echoed through the hangar. The first chain link shattered into fragments of glowing dust. Daniel stumbled backward. The remaining links didn't snap violently. They dissolved. Falling away like ash. The collar dimmed further. The wolf's breathing steadied. It lifted its head again, this time without collapsing. The bioluminescent patterns along its ribs pulsed stronger. Alive. Awakening. Daniel stared at the broken chain pieces. They weren't meant to hold you forever, he whispered. They were meant to see who could release you. The wolf pushed itself onto unsteady paws. It was already bigger. Subtly. But undeniably. The air inside the hangar shifted. Heavier. Charged. A low vibration rolled through the floor. Daniel frowned. That's not you, is it? The wolf's ears flicked upward. It wasn't looking at him anymore. It was listening. A distant thunder echoed from the sky. Not weather. Engines. Daniel stepped toward the open hangar doorway. Dark shapes pierced through the cloud layer. 3 sleek dropships descending fast. Unmarked. Angular. Military. His stomach dropped. They're coming for you. The wolf stood fully now. No trembling. Its golden eyes sharpened. The collar's blue glow deepened, no longer suppressing, but stabilizing. Daniel backed up slowly. I didn't mean to trigger anything. The wolf turned toward him. And something passed between them again. Stronger this time. Clearer. Not just emotion. Meaning. You were meant to. The ground shook as the first dropship landed beyond the field. Metal screamed against pavement. Daniel's throat tightened. "Okay," he whispered, forcing a shaky breath. "New plan. We run." The wolf didn't move. Its bioluminescent markings intensified, lines of silver light racing across its body like forming constellations. It wasn't afraid. It was ready. The hangar doors exploded inward in a blast of force. Daniel flinched. 4 towering armored figures stepped through the smoke. Not human. Their helmets gleamed black, visors scanning the interior instantly. One of them spoke in a harsh, mechanical tone. "Containment breach confirmed." Its weapon rose. "Alpha asset reacquired." Daniel's heart slammed in his chest. "Alpha?" The wolf stepped forward. Not hiding behind him. Not crouching. Standing. The lead soldier adjusted its aim. "Collateral human present." A second voice responded coldly. "Terminate witness." Daniel's legs nearly gave out. This was it. All because he didn't walk away. He closed his eyes for half a second. Stupid. 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 The wolf moved. Not with panic. With precision. Faster than his eyes could track. The nearest soldier's weapon split cleanly in half midair. Metal shrieked. The armored figure flew backward as if struck by invisible force. Crashing through the hangar wall. Silence followed. The remaining 3 soldiers froze. The wolf's golden eyes burned brighter. The air around it bent. Subtle distortions twisting gravity itself. The soldiers' knees buckled. Their weapons crushed inward as though squeezed by unseen hands. Daniel stared. "You're not just some alien wolf," he whispered. The wolf turned its gaze toward him. And this time, the voice wasn't emotion. It wasn't instinct. It was clear. Ancient. Resonant inside his mind. "I am the last heir of the Kael'Turan Alpha line." Daniel blinked rapidly. "Of course you are." Outside, more engines roared. Reinforcements. But the wolf didn't look concerned. It looked focused. On him. "You broke the trial chain." Daniel swallowed. "I just touched it." "You chose not to look away." The weight of that hit harder than the engines outside. For once in his life. His choice mattered. The wolf stepped beside him. Not in front. Not behind. Beside. The hangar ceiling trembled as another dropship descended. Daniel felt fear rising again. But beneath it, something else. A strange, steady warmth spreading from where he'd touched the chain. The color pulsed once more. Deep blue. Not restraint. Bond. And outside, something much larger than the dropships began to enter Earth's atmosphere. Daniel didn't know what it was yet. He only knew this. Whatever trial the chain had tested, it wasn't finished. And the galaxy had just noticed him. The 3 remaining soldiers tried to stand. They couldn't. The air around the wolf had thickened, not visibly, but physically. Like gravity itself had shifted allegiance. Daniel felt it too. A pressure in his ears. A low hum vibrating through his ribs. The wolf stepped forward. No longer trembling. No longer small. Its fur shimmered brighter, the silver strands reflecting light that wasn't there. The bioluminescent markings along its body flared outward in intricate, shifting patterns. No longer faint lines, but living constellations crawling beneath its skin. The lead armored soldier struggled against the invisible force pinning it down. Alpha signature confirmed, it rasped into its comms. Immediate containment required. Containment. Daniel muttered. "You chained it to a floor." The soldier's visor shifted toward him. Human interference detected. Genetic irregularity present. Daniel blinked. "Excuse me?" The wolf's golden eyes sharpened. "Do not listen to them." The voice in his mind was steady now. Controlled. Not weak like before. Behind the soldiers, the shattered hangar wall groaned as the first armored figure pulled itself from the debris. Its weapon was gone, crushed beyond recognition, but it wasn't retreating. It raised its gauntlet. A pulse cannon began charging. Daniel's breath caught. The wolf moved first. It didn't leap. It didn't lunge. It simply looked at the soldier. And the pulse cannon imploded in the alien's hand. Metal compressed inward with a violent crunch. The soldier screamed, stumbling back as its armor systems overloaded. The remaining 2 soldiers activated defensive fields, translucent energy shields snapping into place around them. The wolf's markings flared brighter. Daniel felt something surge through the air. Not heat. Not electricity. Authority. The shields flickered. Then shattered like glass. All four armored hunters hit the ground simultaneously, forced flat against the concrete. The lead soldier's voice cracked. Impossible. Alpha strength not yet matured. The wolf stepped closer. Its eyes were no longer just gold. They burned. You bound me in chains meant for traitors. The soldier struggled to lift its head. You were scheduled for elimination. Your bloodline threatens Dominion hierarchy. Dominion. Daniel swallowed. You guys have a name that screams bad decision. One of the soldiers turned its helmet toward him again. You do not understand what you have released, human. The wolf's voice filled Daniel's mind once more. They understand. That is why they feared me as a cub. Outside, engines roared again, but deeper this time. Heavier. Daniel glanced toward the open sky. A massive silhouette cut through the clouds. Not a dropship. A warship. Sleek. Vast. Silent. And it was not aligned with the hunters. The soldiers noticed it too. Their comm systems erupted in frantic bursts of alien speech. Kale Torin vessel detected. Impossible. The Alpha line was extinguished. The wolf's gaze never wavered. You failed. The pressure in the hangar intensified. Cracks spread along the concrete floor beneath the soldier's armor. Daniel stepped back instinctively. You're doing that? He asked quietly. The wolf didn't answer him directly. Instead, it stepped beside him again. Not dominating the space. Sharing it. The warship above released a descending beam of soft silver light. It landed just outside the hangar. And then, everything stopped. The invisible force pinning the hunters down froze in place, not increasing, not releasing. Holding. A ramp extended from the descending shuttle within the beam. Figures emerged. Tall. Wider than humans. Their armor elegant rather than brutal. Their movements deliberate. Not hunters. Guardians. They entered the hangar slowly. Weapons lowered. The lead guardian removed its helmet. Its features were lupine, similar to the wolf, but refined, older, battle-scarred. Its golden eyes widened when it saw the cub standing freely. Then it looked at Daniel. And something ancient shifted in its expression. Recognition. The guardian dropped to one knee. The others followed instantly. The hunters on the ground went still. Daniel stared, heart pounding. Why are they bowing? The wolf's voice resonated through him. Because you broke the trial chain. The guardian spoke aloud this time, its voice deep and resonant. In all recorded cycles, it said, eyes fixed on Daniel, no non-Kale Torin has ever completed the trial. Daniel blinked rapidly. I didn't even know it was a trial. That, the guardian replied quietly, is why you succeeded. The pinned hunters attempted to activate emergency transmitters. The wolf lifted its head slightly. The devices disintegrated. The guardian's gaze hardened. These hunters violated sovereign protocol. They sought to erase the alpha bloodline before maturation. It looked at Daniel again. You interrupted extinction. Daniel swallowed. I just didn't want it to die. The wolf's golden eyes softened, just slightly. That is why you are dangerous. The hunters were lifted from the ground, suspended in the air by unseen force. Not violently. Effortlessly. The guardian stood. Dominion command will answer for this. The wolf stepped forward. Its presence no longer unstable or wild. Controlled. Growing. Daniel felt the connection between them strengthen again, a quiet thread of shared awareness. Not control. Not ownership. Alignment. One of the suspended hunters hissed toward Daniel. You have entangled yourself in galactic succession, human. You will be hunted. Daniel adjusted his glasses. People at school already tried that. The wolf's markings flared faintly, amusement. The guardian gave a low, approving rumble. The suspended hunters were carried outside toward containment fields. Silence returned to the broken hangar. Dust drifted slowly through beams of fading sunlight. The wolf turned to Daniel. Its eyes were steady now. No pain. No fear. Only clarity. The trial is not complete. Daniel frowned slightly. I kind of hoped it was. The guardian looked between them. The alpha does not bond lightly. Daniel's stomach dropped. Bond? The wolf stepped closer. Close enough that Daniel could feel the warmth radiating from its fur. You broke the chains meant for my execution. You stood when you could have fled. The silver light outside intensified as more Kale Torin warriors secured the perimeter. The guardian spoke softly. The trial does not test strength. It tests choice. Daniel's throat felt dry. And what happens now? The wolf's golden eyes locked onto his. And for the first time, Daniel didn't feel small. He felt seen. Now the galaxy learns who you chose to stand beside. Above Earth, the Kael'Toran warship shifted position. And far beyond the system, Dominion Command received a single transmission. The Alpha lived. And a human had broken the chain. The hangar was quiet now. Too quiet. The Dominion hunters had been removed. The broken wall smoldered faintly where alien armor had torn through it. Dust drifted lazily in beams of fading sunlight. Outside, Kael'Toran warriors secured the perimeter with disciplined efficiency. Sleek silver armor. Controlled movements. No wasted motion. They weren't conquerors. They were protectors. Daniel stood in the middle of it all, heart still racing, trying to process the fact that an alien warship was hovering above Earth because he chose not to ignore a whimper. The wolf stood beside him. Not trembling anymore. Not small. Its fur shimmered softly, silver patterns pulsing in calm, rhythmic waves. The collar around its neck glowed a steady blue, no longer a prison, but something else. Stabilized. The Kael'Toran guardian approached slowly. Up close, Daniel could see the scars etched into the alien's armor, and into the being itself. This was someone who had fought wars. And survived them. You have altered the line of succession, the guardian said evenly. Daniel blinked. I barely passed algebra. The guardian's golden eyes didn't waver. The trial chain does not respond to intellect alone. It responds to will. Daniel glanced at the wolf. The wolf met his gaze. And the connection flared again, clearer than before. Not just emotion. Understanding. You were not afraid of what I was. Daniel swallowed. I was definitely afraid. You acted anyway. That landed harder than anything else had. The guardian stepped closer. The Alpha line was targeted for eradication. Dominion leadership feared what a matured Alpha could unite. Daniel frowned. Unite what? The guardian's voice lowered. The scattered protector clans. The independent systems. The species who refused Dominion rule. Daniel's chest tightened. So they tried to kill it before it grew up. Yes. Silence stretched between them. The wolf stepped forward. Closer. Its head nearly reached Daniel's shoulder now, it had grown again. Subtly, but undeniably. The guardian's eyes softened. The trial is incomplete. Daniel's stomach dropped. You said that already. I was hoping it meant paperwork. The wolf pressed its forehead lightly against Daniel's chest. Light exploded outward. Not blinding. Warm. Daniel gasped. He felt it, a surge through his body, not painful, not invasive. Like something aligning inside him. The collar's blue glow pulsed once. Then split. A thin strand of silver light extended from the collar and traced along Daniel's wrist before dissolving into his skin. He stumbled back slightly. What was that? The guardian knelt. All Alpha bonds require mutual recognition. Daniel stared at his wrist. A faint marking shimmered there, a subtle echo of the wolf's bioluminescent patterns. Then it faded. Not gone. Hidden. The wolf's voice filled his mind again. I do not command you. And you do not command me. We stand. Together. Daniel exhaled slowly. That's a lot. Outside, one of the Kael'Toran warriors approached quickly. Dominion fleet signatures detected at system edge. Daniel's heart dropped. They're coming back. The Guardian rose smoothly. They will not risk planetary engagement. Not yet. Above them, the massive Kael'Toran warship shifted position, its hull gleaming in the fading light. Energy rippled faintly along its surface. Daniel felt something new through the bond. Confidence. Not arrogance. Certainty. The wolf stepped forward, looking toward the open sky. Its golden eyes narrowed slightly. The Guardian spoke quietly to Daniel. The Dominion believed the Alpha line was a symbol of domination. He paused. They misunderstood. Daniel looked down at the wolf. So what is it really? The wolf's markings pulsed brighter. Balance. The word resonated deep inside him. The Guardian continued. An Alpha does not conquer. An Alpha unifies. A distant flash appeared in the upper atmosphere, faint, but unmistakable. Dominion ships. Testing. Watching. Daniel's hands trembled slightly. I'm just a kid. The wolf turned toward him fully. Not towering over him. Not overshadowing him. Standing level. You were a boy no one noticed. You are not that anymore. The truth of it settled heavily in his chest. At school, he had been background noise. Here. Alien warships moved because of him. The Guardian studied Daniel carefully. The bond does not make you a warrior. Daniel let out a small breath. Good. It makes you visible. That hit harder than the threat of fleets. Outside, the Dominion signatures flickered, then retreated slightly. They weren't ready to escalate. Not with Kael'Torin presence established. The wolf's gaze remained skyward. They will return. Daniel nodded slowly. I figured. The Guardian turned toward the open hangar door. Then we will not hide. Daniel's pulse steadied. For the first time in his life. He wasn't trying to shrink. He wasn't calculating how to avoid attention. He was standing in it. The wolf nudged his shoulder gently. A silent question. Daniel swallowed. You're staying, aren't you? If you will have me. Daniel huffed softly. Pretty sure it's my planet. The wolf's markings flickered, unmistakably amused. Outside, Kael'Torin ships adjusted orbit, establishing a visible defensive perimeter. No stealth. No secrecy. A declaration. Earth was under Alpha protection. Daniel looked up at the sky. Everything had changed. And somehow, he didn't feel smaller. He felt anchored. The Guardian stepped beside him. The Dominion feared an Alpha rising. Daniel watched the distant stars. They should have feared who the Alpha chose. The wolf's golden eyes gleamed. And far beyond Earth's orbit, Dominion command recalculated. The Alpha lived. And it had bonded. Not with a general. Not with a warlord. But with a quiet human boy who refused to walk away. The balance of power had shifted. And this time, Daniel Mercer wasn't invisible. Daniel Mercer went back to school on Monday. The world hadn't ended. That was the strange part. The sky was still blue. The buses still ran late. Someone still complained about a pop quiz in history class. But above the atmosphere, a Kael'Torin warship held orbit. Visible. Deliberate. Not cloaked. Not hidden. The message was clear. Daniel adjusted his backpack straps as he stepped through the front gates. Whispers followed him instantly. Not the old kind. Not snickering. Not mocking. Nervous. Curious. The news had broken over the weekend. Unidentified alien fleet enters Earth orbit. Secondary fleet repelled at system edge. Global leaders in emergency summit. And one detail repeated across every broadcast. The alien Alpha had bonded to a human adolescent. Daniel. He reached his locker. No one made jokes. No one muttered. They just watched. Footsteps padded softly beside him. The wolf walked calmly at his side, smaller now, roughly the size of a large earth wolf. Its silver fur shimmered faintly in the hallway lights. The collar at its neck glowed a steady, dignified blue. A teacher froze mid-stride when she saw it. Is that safe? Daniel considered the question. The wolf glanced at the teacher. Golden eyes calm. Measured. Daniel nodded. Yes. The teacher swallowed and continued walking. Students parted instinctively in the hallway. Not because Daniel glared. Not because he threatened. But because something about him had changed. He wasn't hunched anymore. He wasn't shrinking. He walked straight. One of the boys who used to mock him stepped forward hesitantly. Dude, he said quietly, is that thing with you? Daniel looked down at the wolf. The wolf looked back. A faint pulse of light traced along its fur. Daniel shrugged lightly. Yeah. The boy stepped aside immediately. Daniel didn't smile. Didn't gloat. He just continued walking. In third period physics, the principal's voice crackled over the intercom. Daniel Mercer, please report to the administrative office. Every head in the room turned. Daniel sighed softly. Of course. The wolf rose smoothly and followed him. No one tried to stop it. In the administrative office. It wasn't the principal waiting. It was a holographic projection. A global council chamber. Leaders from multiple nations seated around a circular table. And behind them, a Kael'Torin guardian standing in silent watch. Daniel stopped in front of the projector. The wolf sat beside him. One of the human officials leaned forward. Daniel, she said carefully, we need to understand what this bond means. Daniel adjusted his glasses. It means they're not going to invade. The Kael'Torin guardian inclined its head slightly. The official continued. And the Dominion? The wolf's voice filled Daniel's mind. They will test. They will threaten. But they will not strike openly. Daniel repeated it aloud. They'll test. They'll threaten. But they won't attack directly. The officials exchanged uneasy looks. Why? one asked. Daniel glanced at the wolf. The wolf's golden eyes were steady. Because I am no longer alone. Daniel faced the projection again. Because the Alpha isn't alone anymore. Silence settled across the chamber. The Kale-Taurin Guardian finally spoke. Earth now stands under Protectorate Accord. One of the human leaders stiffened. That sounds like occupation. The Guardian's eyes sharpened. It is not. Daniel swallowed. It's a partnership. All eyes turned to him again. He felt the weight of it. Global attention. Alien fleets. Galactic politics. A week ago, he couldn't get people to listen to him in group projects. Now, the galaxy was listening. The wolf rose and stepped closer to him. Its fur shimmered faintly. The Guardian continued. The Dominion believed fear creates obedience. Daniel looked at the projection. They're wrong. The wolf's presence radiated quiet strength. Not dominance. Not aggression. Control. Daniel exhaled slowly. They changed something they didn't understand. The officials leaned forward. And what is that? One asked. Daniel glanced down at the wolf. The wolf's gaze met his. Trust. He turned back to the projection. Balance. The Kale-Taurin Guardian inclined its head. Correct. Outside the school windows, the faint shimmer of the orbiting warship caught the sunlight. Not a threat. A shield. The meeting ended shortly after. As the hologram dissolved, the principal stared at Daniel like he was seeing him for the first time. You can go back to class, she managed. Daniel nodded. He and the wolf walked back down the hallway together. The whispers followed again. But they were different now. Not mocking. Not cruel. Just awe. A younger student tugged on Daniel's sleeve timidly. Is it true? The kid whispered. You saved it. Daniel looked down at the wolf. The wolf's tail flicked slightly. I didn't save it, Daniel said quietly. I just didn't walk away. The kid nodded slowly. As the day ended, Daniel stepped outside onto the school steps. The wolf stood beside him. The sky above was calm. But Daniel could feel it now. The awareness. The connection stretching beyond Earth. Dominion scouts watching from a distance. Calculating. Reassessing. They had feared none. They had believed strength was chains. That power was control. Now they understood something new. The Alpha had bonded. And not to a soldier. Not to a ruler. To a quiet human boy who refused to ignore suffering. The wolf looked up at him. You are not feared. Daniel exhaled softly. I don't want to be. The wolf's golden eyes gleamed. Good. Far beyond Earth. Dominion Command revised its projections. The Alpha line had matured. And it had chosen. Not conquest. Not vengeance. But alliance. On the school steps, Daniel adjusted his glasses one last time. He wasn't louder. He wasn't meaner. He wasn't stronger in the way bullies understood strength. But he stood straight. And when the wind shifted, carrying the faint hum of the Kale-Taurin warship in orbit, Daniel Mercer finally understood something simple. He had never needed to be feared. He had only needed to stand. And this time, the galaxy stood with him.